Hello everybody, and welcome to the second of the Year of Bulky Hats knitting tutorials. Today we're going to be talking about one of the techniques that you use to make the Fernhill hat, which is the February hat. I've got a lovely sample here knit in the kit color that we carry in the store. And today we're going to specifically be talking about the cast on, because the cast on is a really interesting one. It might be a little bit challenging at first, but you can see it has this beautiful sort of infinity pool-like edge in which the ribbing just crosses over the edge of the brim over to the other side of the hat. So this is a nice technique to learn in sort of a safe manner, and this is a relatively low stakes environment. And just for comparison, I'll show you what the cast on we did last time looks like. And that's this one here. And you can see there's a line along the bottom for the long tail cast on. And there isn't that line along this edge here. So that's the main technique that we're going to talk about, because we spoke in the last video about how to read a chart. This pattern only comes in chart format. And so you're going to need to make sure you read your chart like we talked about last time. From the bottom right, going across each row in a repeat. And once you get to the end of your row, going up to the next row, using the chart key to read the pattern. Luckily, this pattern is all knits, purls, slips, and decreases. So these are all techniques that we already know. And really the only new thing is this really cool cast on technique. Okay, so let's get started. For our cast on, we're going to need some scrap yarn. I've got this contrast color in just a dishcloth cotton. You want your scrap yarn to be kind of a slippery yarn. You don't want it to be super sticky. You don't use mohair or anything like that, because we are going to be pulling it out in the end when we're done using it. So we want it to be able to pull apart pretty quickly. We've got a stitch marker. We have a crochet hook. We're going to be using a 5mm circular needle to start. And so I've got a 5mm crochet hook. Anything within a millimeter or so should be fine. And then I've got my yarn for the main part of the hat. And you can see I've chosen a contrast color so I can see between the two yarns which one I need to rip out. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to make a slip knot with our scrap yarn here and pop the loop onto our crochet hook. If you've never crocheted before, don't be too scared. This is the most basic crochet stitch out there, and so you kind of have to learn this one to learn anything else in crochet. So don't worry, we're not going to make your life too difficult. Okay, so with my hook, my loop, and my crochet yarn, I'm going to slip my needle next to my hook with my working yarn coming out to the left. And so what I'm going to do is use my hook to grab the yarn and pull it through the loop on my crochet hook. Bring the yarn to the back again, grab with the hook and pull through the loop. And again, yarn goes to the back, grab it with my crochet hook and pull through the loop. And so if you do crochet, we're essentially making a chain stitch around the needle, grabbing, pulling through the loop. And so your work should start to look like this. And we're going to do that until we have 33 stitches on our needle. And then without using the needle, I'm going to chain a few more. And I've chained a few extra stitches here, and that's going to remind me that this is the direction that I'm going to be pulling out from when I take this pink yarn out and not this one. So chain a few extra here. I'm gonna clip this yarn here. There we go. And we're switched to our working yarn. And following the instructions, we are not going to join in the round. We are instead going to knit our first stitch. Just by making a loop with our yarn and knitting as normal. The next one, we're going to yarn over. So to yarn over, you're going to wrap the yarn around the needle, and then we're going to knit another stitch. Yarn over, knit one, yarn over, and so forth until we get to the end of the round. And knit that last stitch. Good. Setup row, or row 1, is complete. So now we're going to turn and work back because we aren't joined in the round yet. And now we're going to slip one with the yarn in front. So my yarn's in the front here. I'm going to slip it purlwise. Then I need to move my yarn to the back of the work, and I'm going to knit my yarn over. Bring my yarn forward and slip with yarn in front, yarn to the back, and knit one. And we're just going to keep alternating between the two. Remember to always move your yarn between the needles, back and forth, knitting the yarn overs and slipping over these little bumps here, these little pink bumps. All right, I'm at the end of my row here. I'm just going to slip this one, knit, and then the last one I'm going to slip with yarn in front again. Just tighten this up a little bit because it's getting loose. Done row 2. Great, we've only got 2 rows left. So now we're going to start row 3, and row 3 is a knit one. Whoop. So loose stitch at the beginning, knit one. And again, we're going to slip with yarn in front, so bring the yarn between the needles to the front, slip, yarn to the back, knit, yarn to the front, slip, and so forth to the end. All right, we're at the end of the row again. So we're going to slip one with yarn in front, and then we're going to knit that last stitch. Work. So now it's row 4, which is the last of the back and forth rows. It's fantastic, we're almost there. And again, we know what we're doing here. We're going to slip one with yarn in front, yarn to the back, knit one, yarn to the front, slip one with yarn in front, and so forth until the end of the row. Okay, so we're coming up on the end of row 4. Let's just power through these last few stitches. Okay, so this is where the magic happens. This is where the fancy business of joining in the round and starting the rest of our brim happens. This has just been the introduction to the brim. Let's get started on the actual brim of the hat. Okay, so normally when you would join in the round, you already have your working yarn coming off of your right hand. You would start like this, just like any other hat. This is a little bit more special in terms of their instructions. You could follow their instructions and start with a purl 2 together instead of a knit 2 together and do it this way. Or if you'd like to follow the instructions with me, we're going to whoop, switch our work around just a little bit. So our yarn is coming out of the back of the work and on the left-hand needle. You'll see the next instruction is to slip a stitch from the right-hand needle over to the left-hand needle. Okay. Do it without splitting the yarn if you can. And now we're going to knit 2 together. So we're going to knit from the beginning and the end of the row together. So let's knit 2 together. go into both of those stitches like they're one, and then you're going to purl one, and then knit one, and do one by one, knitting and purling, ribbing, until the end of the row. Okay, so we're just gonna wrap up this row here. I went ahead and did a second row of ribbing, just to give us a little bit more fabric. So let's not stop at the stitch marker. You're gonna put that stitch marker right before that knit two together stitch. Alrighty, we'll do a couple more stitches just to get away from that marker so it doesn't fall off my needle. All right. And so what I would like to do is show you what happens when you take this pink yarn out, which is really exciting. And so the pattern recommends that you do this at the end. I wouldn't. I would knit a few rows of regular ribbing and then pull out the pink yarn, because if you're gonna find out that you did it wrong, you might as well find out within an inch of starting, instead of doing the whole hat, realize you did the brim wrong, and having to pick up the pieces from there. So I've got a couple of plain ribbing rows. Remember we wanna start pulling out from the side that we chained a few extra stitches. I'm gonna pull that out, and then you and I are gonna see if I messed up or not. Okay. Pull that out, because it's just a chain stitch, so it should pull out all on its own. There we go. Oh. Along with some of my stitches, apparently. Okay. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Oh, here we are. There we go. Let's undo this chain all the way. Okay, almost there, and then we can pull that yarn all the way out. Almost, haha! So you can see we've got that lovely edge. We might have to pull a couple bits of pink yarn out of the way, but nothing seems to be falling, nothing seems to be exploding. So I think, folks, that is a successful cast on. Hooray! And so then you're just gonna keep following the pattern. So you're gonna knit your one by one ribbing for 2 inches. And then we're gonna move on to our chart, our decreases, and then we'll finish. And we've just talked Caitlin into making a Pom Pom tutorial. So stay tuned for that if you'd like to put a yarn Pom Pom on the top of your Fernhill hat. So we'll see you again next month for a brand new hat tutorial. Happy knitting!